All right, we are live. It is Thursday, March 19th, and we're here to check in on progress for Backdrop CMS. So we have a section at the beginning of this meeting every week for updates from the PMC. This week's update is the same as last week's update. We have 47 or so-ish free PHP Storm licenses for Backdrop CMS developers. The rule is that you need to have access to the contrib repository in order for us to be able to give you a license. But if you have ported a module or are maintaining a module that is in that repository, we can send you a license key for PHP Storm if you'd like to use it. So if that sounds good to you, go ahead and contact us, and we've got them ready to hand out. So you can use the contact form on our website, or you can send an email to info@backdropcms.org, and we will distribute those until they're gone. So in terms of community growth, we have 30 total contributed module authors, module theme layout authors, which is great. One new one since last week. We have a total now of 81 contributed projects, which is up 9 since last week, which is amazing. So I don't know what you guys have been doing this week, but it's fabulous. So thank you for all the hard work. I think this is last week's In the News article from Lolobot. This week, there was one from, I'm not sure I have it here. There was a article that somebody posted about how to make it easier to work on core, which I thought was really great. And I thought I was going to have a link here to add, but I don't. So I think I tweeted it, or I've scheduled it to go out tomorrow. So hopefully someone will find that and we can drop that in, which is exciting. Other exciting news, Luke taught a intro to web development class on Backdrop this week, which went pretty well, so it's kind of exciting. So thank you, Luke, for doing that too.
It's fun.
Let's see. There's things that we're working on here in Backdrop land that aren't actually Backdrop the project, but that are super important for Backdrop the community. One of them is Dresh, which we have got almost working. There's a roadmap for what we need to do to get Dresh working in Backdrop, and there's a roadmap for what we need to do to get Dresh working in Dresh. So both of those projects have issues in the queue to try and help make them work together, which is great. And we have a blog post by Mike from Kalamuna about how to hack the two together right now if you want to get it working right away, as opposed to waiting for all of those changes to happen in both projects, which I think is certainly exciting. Other things we're working on is a update status check for Backdrop. So right now when you install Backdrop the product, the update status module is enabled, and what that does is go and ping an update server that returns a message that says it's not yet implemented. And we are working on implementing that. So along with that goes a bunch of other stuff that we've got working on the backdropcms.org site, like pulling in information about modules from the contrib group, getting their version strings. In order to get their version strings, we need to have a packaging script on GitHub that will package them. All of this stuff is coming together, and hopefully very soon we will have update status checking working on Backdrop. So that's all underway. I think we've made a bunch of progress in the last few weeks, and we are inching closer every day, so soon. Other things we're not working on at the moment are creating a GitHub service. And this is just a checkbox on your GitHub project page that will allow you to specify something as a Backdrop module, theme, or layout. The idea is that that checkbox will eventually make the equivalent of a sandbox entry on the Backdrop CMS site, so that people who are looking for projects will be able to find sandbox projects if there isn't an official project that matches what they need. But since we don't yet have very many sandbox projects, that's been lower priority on our list, and we will probably get to that eventually, but haven't started yet. We also have an API site, api.backdropcms.org. That API site contains a couple of different things. It has all of our code as pulled in and parsed through Doctrine. So if you want to search for functions, you can do that. It also has all of our change records. So if you're looking for anything that is significantly different between Drupal and Backdrop, you can search for that there, and it'll show, you know, why we changed something and how to change your code if you're porting a module to match, which is good. And we've also started creating developer documentation over there too. So if you're looking for instructions on how to port a module or how to port a theme or how to write a layout for Backdrop, there should be pages for all of that on the API site as well. So what we're working on over there is changing the current theme. We think it works really well as it is, but we want to make it match our branding. So we'll eventually put a new theme on that site that matches our AP, the CMS, sorry, backdropcms.org main website. But since it works so well right now, we're not in any hurry to be working on that also. So now to the fun stuff. Our Backdrop flagship site has been ported to Backdrop, which is really great. We are working on all of this other integration stuff on it, which is also really great. And just today, we started in our design meeting an hour ago, started working on page tables for the find a module, find a theme, find a layout stuff. So as we're starting to do things like pull in content from GitHub about modules, themes, and layouts so that we can do things like our update status checking, we're also thinking about listing those modules, themes, and layouts on the main website. And that's so that we can give people a more useful search than they would be able to find by using Google or searching GitHub for project information. So we're trying to pull in information about, here's the module's name, here's its download link, and that will link hopefully to the packaged version that has the version string in it. And we'll also show you the number of people who've downloaded that project. So hopefully it'll work a lot like Drupal.org does now. It'll look different. It'll be fundamentally different in how it's put together since all the code is coming from GitHub. But hopefully it'll give people a nice, clean way to find the thing they're looking for, as we don't really have that right now. So that's what we've been working on for the last hour. I'm very excited about that progress. Nate, do you want to give any updates on update status or the project module port or any of the other stuff that you've been working on lately?
Yeah, just real quick. In the backdropcms.org issue queue, issue number 8 is kind of the primary brainstorming issue, but it's also where I've been posting just like the fact that we're going to be using project module, a port of project module for Backdrop. And I just posted earlier today that I'm making progress on it, but I'm trying to get it totally working so that it's not going to crash people's sites. But I'll be putting it up in the contrib group, probably not this week, but later next week. And then from there, we can all start collaborating on it together. But for the short term, just getting it working on Backdrop and like stripping out all of this stuff, because Drupal.org has a lot of functionality that doesn't apply to, because it assumes like hosting our own version control system, for example, but we're not. We're going to be integrating with GitHub. So actually removing all of the parts of project module that we didn't need has been a pretty significant task, but I expect we'll have it in contrib by next week.
That's great. Okay, so back to Backdrop itself. We have made a security release yesterday, and I don't know, Nate, if you want to talk about that or its process.
Yeah, I think it's always great to mention whenever we have these security releases. Actually, since last meeting, we may have actually had 2 releases. We may have had 1.0.4, which was a bug fixing release, which I think was released on Friday last week, and then we had 1.0.5 because we didn't know it was going to happen, but Drupal released a security update for Drupal 7, and whenever Drupal releases a security update for Drupal 7, we coordinate with them to simultaneously release the same fixes for Backdrop CMS. So I always like mentioning that just because it's a really fun, like it's significant that we can work together to produce secure software together. So we work together in the Drupal.org security website, which is like a private intranet site, to build out the correct patches and fixes. And David Rothstein, actually, the maintainer for Drupal 7, did both of the ports for Backdrop CMS directly, and uploaded patches for Backdrop, and all I had to do was apply them and then commit them, and then we just timed the releases so that they came out within like a couple minutes of each other. So pretty exciting. It's really nice to see that kind of collaboration between us and the Drupal community.
I think that's super exciting too. Full collaboration. All right, so since we've had 2 releases in the last week, we don't have a release date for our next patch release, but obviously as people start finding and fixing bugs, we will eventually schedule one of those. But we do have a release date for our next minor release, which is Backdrop 1.1. We're hoping to release that on the 15th of May, which, as some of you may know, is in the middle of DrupalCon Los Angeles. So what we're planning on doing is, that's the Friday, I think, Friday. So that's, I think, that Friday, what we're going to plan on doing is locking ourselves in some sprint room, or maybe the hotel room if they don't want us in the sprint room, or somewhere where we can get that release out. And then that night, we're going to all go to a bar or to dinner or something together. And Doug Van has generously agreed to sponsor that event, so everybody will probably get a beer on Doug, which is great. And we'll just be able to have kind of a everyone who likes Backdrop get together space where we can chat casually out of the DrupalCon world. So it won't be at DrupalCon, it'll be somewhere kind of off premises. So if you're there for DrupalCon anyway, because you're a Drupal developer and you love Drupal, but you're interested in talking about Backdrop or hanging out with Backdrop folks, we'll do a bar night or a dinner somewhere more casual where we can meet and celebrate the release of 1.1, which I think sounds super exciting. So on our roadmap for 1.1, got a lot to get done in the next 2 months here. 2 months, sorry, yeah. What we have is a rich text editor in core, which is something that's super important, but also something that's super difficult. And our current plan for that is, I think, documented in the issue, but there's a lot of stuff where we have ideas and we don't have any notes necessarily. As you all are probably aware, Nate did a ton of work on architecting the integration of CK Editor into Drupal 8, so he has a ton of thoughts on how that integration should happen for Backdrop as well. But Nate has his hands full with a bunch of other stuff at the moment. So we've tried to kind of delegate that out and say, if anyone who wants a rich text editor should be working on putting this in core, and this is kind of generally what we think should happen. But if anyone really wants to take that on, it would be good for us to have kind of a meeting, like maybe a Skype call or another Google Hangout, where we can say, you know, this is what we're thinking, and as you run into problems, ask or post something in the issue queue. If it's not, you know, Nate that responds, someone else will probably have some feedback on how things should work, and we can collaborate to create that end product. But there does need to be some things that are significantly different from how Drupal 8 has done it, and a lot of things that are significantly different from how that problem has been solved in Drupal 7. So it is kind of that no man's land where it's not quite as easy as porting from one place to the other. So if someone wants to take that on, that would be fabulous. I don't think anyone is actively working on it at the moment, although I think there are a couple people thinking about it. But definitely something we want to see in 1.1, and time is ticking down. So if you care about it a lot, we'd love to have help there. Other things we're working on for 1.1 are integrating token and path auto. I am probably 95% done with the token port, which I think is fabulous. There are a couple of random functions I would like to refactor, which will come after we get everything working. Right now, the token dialog works great. It pops up, it functions how it is, but there's a couple of pieces left that I want to get converted before I post my branch. But I think, and oh, there's a bunch of tests that are failing. I should fix those too. But I think we are inches away from getting that done, and I'm hoping to spend some time today working on that so that we can wrap that up, which is good. And then I know, Jeff, I think you volunteered last week to start looking at Path Auto. I don't know if you've made any progress on that yet, but I'm super excited about how that might be going. So hopefully it looks like both Token and Path Auto are on track to get in for 1.1, which is good. We've got time to get those in. So yeah, Jeff, if you run into issues like you need a different version of Token, go ahead and ping me and I can post my code and you can see how that works. I think it should, be pretty straightforward with, if you use the contrib version of Token, there shouldn't be too much trouble there. But yeah, that is also looking really good. And then the other thing that is looking good and on track for getting in for 1.1 is our new administrative theme changes. And I know that we have a bunch of issues that are have pull requests that are ready to be applied, but we made a couple of significant changes to Drupal core since the pull requests were created. So those will probably need to be rebased and resubmitted because changing like the location of 7's style sheet is something that we can something that will break all of the changes to code that comes after. So we have designs for the new admin theme. We have Wes managing all of the implementation. I don't know, Wes, if you want to give us a little update on how things are progressing over there.
Sure. Yeah, so gotten a few tickets in. I know I'm personally running into a bug on, or some test issues on breadcrumbs, so I need to try and wrap my head around that. And then we're trying to work. Ronnie's working on the fonts for 7, and just working through some issues, getting that to work correctly. Yeah, other than that, probably could use some more people. I think I'm going to try and harass some of my coworkers who might have free time soon. So, but yeah,
Okay.
what?
That's also good to
Yeah,
know too, because we have a handful of front end people who, or we may have a handful of front end people who don't know where they could be useful. And I think saying like we have a discrete set of issues now, you can grab any one of these issues, and there's some instructions on, you know, this is where you go to get your code. This is how you install the style guide module. This is what you style, and this is how you submit a pull request. I think that's a good place to get those people involved too. So.
Yep.
That it's good to put out the call if we think we need more people. Hey, people, if you want to work on it,
Anyone who has front end questions, feel free to ping me on IRC anytime. It'll hit my phone, and I will probably be less busy than Jen and Nate. So probably.
Yay!
yeah. I actually wanted to add some notes about how we're collaborating on that. We haven't done this yet, but the plan is I proposed in the issue queue, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to make a new branch in the Backdrop repository itself for 1.1.0 dash like admin or design or something like that, because right now we have like 4 or 5 pull requests that are all pretty much ready to go. But if I merge any of them in, it makes the entire administrative experience feel really screwed up, because like the tables are updated and the tabs are updated and the pages are updated, but the drop buttons look like crap because like the fonts are just like all over the place. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new branch, a feature branch in the Backdrop repository, and I'm going to start merging the pull requests that are ready into that one branch so that we can see how it looks when these things are all together. And that'll make it so that we can iterate on getting these things in, and we'll feel like we're making some progress, and we can also see how they work all together without breaking the entire interface in the meantime.
I think that sounds great. All right, so we are totally on track with all of those things except for the rich text editor, which I think still is going to create an excellent release for 1.1. And if we don't manage to get the rich text editor in for 1.1, we will push that to 1.2, and then we'll have to go kind of all out in order to make sure that that gets in. Because I think if it went to 1.3, I would be very sad if we couldn't get that in. So that's kind of what we're looking for. We also have milestones in the GitHub issue queue if you're interested in what we have scheduled for 1.1 or 1.2 or 1.3. As far as we have a schedule, we have a milestone. We don't know what's in 1.4 yet, so there isn't a milestone, so you can't check what's in it. And I think all of that stuff is also listed on backdropcms.org on the roadmap page if you want to take a look there too, all in one place. But yeah, so just go ahead and check out the milestones or the roadmap or anywhere else to see what's coming in our future. There's also a bunch of other stuff that we're continually working on in Backdrop. We have a bunch of user experience issues, a bunch of developer experience issues. We have bug fixes as they come up and get fixed. We'll work on those. And then there's just, any open source project is going to have a bunch of issues. If you run into some problem and it makes you really frustrated and you're like, I fix this every month on Drupal and now I'm going to fix it on Backdrop once and for all. I do that all the time. So who knows whether those will actually get in or not. They'll have to be judged on, if it's actually a bug fix or not, if it's a new feature, trying to schedule it in the right place, and then if it aligns with Backdrop's philosophy. So there's some things that might just not be a good fit for the project, but we are interested in hearing all of the issues, so that's a thing to keep in mind. All right, so every Thursday after this meeting, we have a little sprint in IRC. So all of the people that you see here will probably be there. There's a bunch of other people who can't necessarily meet this hangout because of work or other obligations who will be in there. It's a good, fun little place for our growing community to chat and talk about Backdrop-related issues or, puppies or whatever it is you want to talk about in there. And I think it's really fun to just kind of, ask questions to each other and get different opinions on answers. Like, everybody should hang out. It's fun. Other places where you can meet up with the Backdrop community, we have a conference this weekend in Chicago called Midcamp, where Nate and I will be. We have not been asked to talk about Backdrop, so we will not be giving a talk on Backdrop, but we will be there. So if you want to talk about Backdrop with us, that's definitely an option. We're also trying to sponsor the Sprint Room, because since we're not giving a talk on Backdrop, we're likely to be working on Backdrop instead. So we're going to be in the Sprint Room, hanging out, talking about Backdrop, working on Backdrop. So definitely stop by, say hi, and if you want to help Sprint with us, that would be really cool. And then we have one other event on our calendar so far this summer, which is Twin Cities Drupal Camp, which is in the middle of June, I think, or the end of June, which is all we've got so far. We will, of course, be at DrupalCon in Los Angeles, as I mentioned before, during our release day, which should be pretty fun, and also not giving a talk on Backdrop at DrupalCon LA. But there's a bunch of other stuff going on around the world, too, and the Backdrop community is not just where Nate and I are going to be. It's also up to all of you. So if any of you are attending an event and you want to give a talk on Backdrop or have been asked to give a talk on Backdrop, you want to have a casual place to meet up with people that maybe isn't a formal talk, you want to do a sprint, we can add all of these things to our calendar. That we have an iCal feed set up for anyone who wants to go to Backdrop-friendly events. So as you guys are setting up your schedule for this summer, let us know, and we'll drop those things on the calendar so that other people can see, like, oh, this is a place where I can go to hear about Backdrop or talk to people about Backdrop or commiserate about how much I hate Backdrop or whatever it is you want to do. And then there's also a weekly calendar for these meetings. So if you want to have iCal updates to remind you so you don't have to watch Twitter, I'm going to start trying to put the Google Hangout links into the calendar events, but I can't guarantee how much time there's going to be before the meeting before that link goes in there. But that could be an interesting thing for you guys to follow along if you wanted better access to the Hangouts. So we'll try that. And then we have a couple of publicity items coming up. We've got articles coming out in Drupal Watchdog this May. People are writing blog posts all of the time about Backdrop, which is fabulous. I'm going to try and post some of those in our Facebook group. I know I've been ignoring our Facebook group because we're more of a Twitter-friendly family, but I noticed that there are a bunch of other people from around the world who are joining the Facebook group, and I think it would be good to have more activity there. So I'm going to try and post some of the articles people should read there. And if anyone finds anything interesting on the internet about Backdrop, tweet about it with #Backdrop, and you can probably post it in the Facebook group too. I'm not really sure how that works because I'm not super Facebook savvy, but just share it if you want, and hopefully everyone else who's following Backdrop will be able to read up about it too if they're interested. So yeah, I think that's all I have on this weekly agenda for this week. But I did want to open this meeting up and say, if anyone has anything to add, if anyone has any questions they want to ask, if we want to just, high fives on yay security release, we could do that. But yeah. So Luke just posted into the chat that there are 2 upcoming events: Drupal Camp Stanford, which is in April, and Nice Camp, which is I think it's in July, I think, the week July.
Yeah, it's in mid-July.
14th, yeah. We have not been approached by either of those events to speak about Backdrop. I don't know if anyone else has. I will probably be at Drupal Camp Stanford, though I haven't offered to give a talk. I'll just go and hang out and see other people give talks about Drupal. I don't know if anyone has been approached to give talks on or about Backdrop at New York Camp either. So the way that we're trying to kind of tread softly in the Drupal community. If there are people at these events who want to hear about Backdrop, feel free to talk about it. If anyone else wants to talk about Backdrop, feel free to talk about it. If we want to add these events to our calendars, I think that's good. I don't know, Luke, if you think I should add them even if they aren't, we don't know if they're Backdrop friendly. I think that might be a little bit weird just because how do you choose which events to promote on the Backdrop calendar? I would say we should either reach out to the organizers of the events and make sure that that's okay, or find out from other people who are, if there is anyone planning on talking about Backdrop, like if they've got proposed a session or if they got one in, or then that might be a little more.
Yeah, I don't know anything specific about it. I mean I know the Stanford people really well, so I'll probably ping a few of them and see what they think.
Okay. right, that is definitely good food for thought. All right, does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Andy also mentioned that if you're going to be tweeting about Backdrop, to use the hashtag Backdrop CMS. I know a bunch of people have used hashtag Backdrop, but if you search for hashtag Backdrop, you get a whole bunch of like Instagram photos with like, check out my Backdrop, which is not really what we're going for. So if you tack the CMS onto the end, you get actual Backdrop CMS stuff. So that's a good thing to note too. All right, well, if there aren't any other questions or comments, then I think we should wrap this meeting. We'll see everyone in IRC. Oh yeah, use the subreddit. A bunch of people have been doing a bunch of stuff on the subreddit lately, which is really cool. So yeah, let's go forth and frolic.
All right, thanks everybody. Talk to you next week.
Bye guys.
All right, bye-bye.